Well, welcome back to Krown's Kitchen Cave as we get started for the early morning in this Saturday. Is it Saturday? Yeah, I think it's Saturday. Hey, have a happy Saturday in your life. Doesn't matter what fucking day it is. Have a fucking nice day. Whatever day it may be. It doesn't really matter. Anyways, we got plenty to talk about on Bitcoin price action. Closing the week out at 92.20 for CMEs is going to let us kind of come up with the next set of biases coming into the next trading week. And of course, now we have a weekend of factory, as I typically like to call it, for Bitcoin spot price action, of which there probably actually will be a little bit of moves during the overnight session, or sorry, during the weekend session, I should say. But to follow from yesterday's short-term analysis, we did see the re-swipe, if you want to call it that, the retest of the lows at that low $9,000 number. Bitcoin so far so good, holding up above it. And as we said, if a breakdown is going to happen, or the next big move probably doesn't happen over the weekend, probably happens during the week's direction. Anyways, looking at the Krown chain application over here, which can be found at app.crowntrading.net, we do see that the open interest is still maintaining its level above that 1.7.5 billion marker, which to me is really indicative that level was relevant to kind of confirming the next sort of change of behavior from a short and medium term time frame perspective. But realistically, as far as the high term time frames go, we still haven't seen the ranges being broken to the upside or the downside. The levels are still more or less the same at 9,900 above 9,900 or below 9,000-ish region, or 8,900, depending upon which sort of trigger that you're using. And still want to see what the open interest shows if and when we do see one of those levels breached and closed upon on one of the medium or higher term time frames. Elsa is cleaning shit below my feet right now, which is, hey, the fuck are you doing? What are you doing? what are you actually doing? Anyways, looking at Bitcoin dominance, we do see pretty much the same thing as yesterday. 64.5%. Fear and greed index still hovering between the 40 and 50 ranks, and everything else pretty much the same. So we still haven't seen the big bad move, which we said was likely to happen probably coming into next week, as things just were a little bit too overcooked on the lower term timeframes to get that momentum going, looking at the end of this past week. So with that said, let's go into the actual price action charts right here. Oh, I forgot to mention that, yes, we did just nail down the dates for the upcoming sale. It's going to be the first day of July for 2 weeks. It'll be like a 4th of July for the Americans, and then kind of like a summer sale for everyone else. So if you are considering investing in any one of the programs, just hold off for like another, I don't know, what is it, like 4 days? Yeah, 4 days, and then all good. It'll be much less expensive. Anyways, on top of that, we're also going to be what the fuck are you doing? Like, okay, no response. On top of that, Mournfall himself, the creator of the Jewel and actually of the Krown chain application, is going to be releasing his own how to code your own indicators in PineScript program as well. It's going to be focused as like complete beginners with coding. So if you do want to learn that, and if you do like his work, well, there you go. And I feel like there's something else. We have a bunch of updates coming for the app. You've probably been noticing them if you're already on it, but if not, definitely go check it out. Anyways, looking at CMEs, we do see that still, if you do want to make the argument that Bitcoin's creating higher lows still, you can still make that argument. However, with the way that we closed on Friday, I would say that this does not bode well for a nice Monday open. Realistically over the weekend, I'd expect to see some kind of hunts to the upside, maybe even test up as much as like 9,400-ish region, but at the end of the day, anything below 95.50, especially this last prior high right here is just in the process of making a downtrend, as we do have confirmed lower highs now, and looks like we did close on a lower low right there as well. So technically speaking, like the super aggressive traders they'll actually take positions based off that. I wouldn't myself. I like still using this low that we saw on the 14th of June as a good pivot to the downside. It's just looking for continuation below there, and having a nice drive into the deeper 8,000s territory, like 8,100-ish regions that we've been speaking about, or a daily total closure below the 55 on CME chart on the daily, which is currently at 90.50-ish region, which is exactly where the rising trend line is governing our higher lows to date, is on spot price action right here, which we'll actually go into just for a second as well. Yes, the 4 hour is getting a death cross right now. Yes, things are grinding on the lows once again, but I don't think that we're going to see a break to the downside over the weekend. I do think that this looks overall weak. I do think that this is not looking all that healthy as far as the greater picture goes, but I would not discount another move back up into this region right here. Maybe even test this blue box right here in the middle, somewhere around 94 to 9,500ish region. But as I've been saying, as long as Bitcoin's below this prior high right here, we are in the process of having a trend reversal. And what's also problematic, although I haven't seen it just yet, but I'm going to assume, picking up from where I left off, overnight, looking at NASDAQ futures, yes, it is looking like we have a confirmed reversal here as well. 21 exponential moving average should probably bounce it, but if this is going to top out and play a little bit of a downside, what does that mean for Bitcoin being correlated assets? Well, I would say that that's going to allow Bitcoin potentially even break down as far as the higher term timeframes go. Major bearish divergence here, although I would say that the easy portion of that has already been had. We did hit our 98.50 target to the downside. I would look for a bounce coming into Monday, maybe even bounce as high as 10,000 again. But overall, as long as we're, bless you, as long as we're below, shut up. Just kidding. That caught her attention. And so I'd be looking for a bounce, kind of open up Monday, probably similar to what we're going to see on Bitcoin. And then if we come back down and take out Friday's low, I'd look for continuation for Bitcoin into the mid 8,000s for NASDAQ, probably back down to the 9,600 base. And keep in mind that the monthly is going to be closing soon. The weekly did close like this, which looks like a clear rejection. This is your nice, what do you want to call it? Some people call it gravestone, some people call it doji, some people call it shooting star, whatever the fuck you want to call it. A sign of indecision, a sign of reversal, really. Ending the week on a down note like that typically will lead towards continuation, try to open up the next following week. So yeah, a small bounce here probably fine, but overall I'd be looking very likely lower, especially if we can take out Friday's low, and that's going to correlate with some not so good things on Bitcoin. And keep in mind that this is also accompanying a decent a very good sell signal on the daily jewel for NASDAQ futures. Also bearish divergence on daily RSI, daily Stokes opening down as well, although this is not too problematic in and of itself. But with historical volatility percentile looking like it's set to expand, look at the moving average on this. It's got a positive slope once again after a long period of contraction right here. So I would look for this to get sustained, actually. I do think that we're going to expand from this region as the moving average does suggest right there. Anyways, going back into Bitcoin price action, kind of helping the old bias boner with that, we can also see the daily jewel on Bitcoin has given a continuation haughtier sell signal, or haughtier short signal here for the decent sell signal that we called out about 2 weeks ago now. No, 3 weeks ago, 3rd of June. Bitcoin was somewhere around here. By the way, I forgot to mention, the jewel will actually have its own sale as well. We haven't done a sale on the jewel in a long time, and so it will have its own as well. If you're already in the jewel program and you want to take advantage of the sale, you'll just have to cancel your current thingy on PayPal, and then you can just go into it, just that way as well, or email support@krowntrading.net, and Elsa will run you through it because she's very capable. Let's see, daily Stokes also opening down as well. We've been kind of following these trend lines for a while. I guess I don't have it on this. Oh yeah, I do have it on this chart. We've been following these trend lines for a while. I do consider this, kind of a test of this topside one right here, and failing thus far, because they should be seen more as regressions, especially on Stokes. And I don't look for formations to work out on these, just trend lines, as that was a question that I got frequently yesterday. So I wanted to kind of pinpoint that as well. But for right now, yes, the daily did close below 55 on spot price action. I don't look at that as actionable over the weekend price action. Realistically, I'd look for the short-term range to kind of test back up at the very least towards 92.50 again. If Bitcoin does close above, especially, do you want to be a little more conservative there? I mean, I think it probably gets it at 92.50, 92.60ish region. If it does close back above there, technically it would be still another lower high. So you know what, I should be conservative here, actually. I'll use 9,300, I suppose. If Bitcoin can close a 2-hour or 4-hour dildo above 9,400, 9,300, I'd look for extension anywhere between 94.50 to 95.50 in this territory right here. That would still just be in the guise of another lower high. And that would also probably be good enough to get a lot of people bullish once again, because all you need is like a $200 to $300 move to the upside, and then people start posting on Twitter about how BTFD, bro, I'm hodling. Now, keep in mind there is a death cross on the 4-hour exponential moving averages between the green 55 and the purple 200 right there. That is, obviously a bad thing, but I just don't look at it as actionable right now. We've seen this a million fucking times where Bitcoin will hint at something like this over the weekend. Yes, it does look bad. Yes, it does look like distribution now, especially with the last weeks of price action. But I would not discount another try to the upside first to gather in some more unsuspecting longs before playing out the downside move if it is going to move to the downside. Now, of course, can I be wrong about a bias boner to the downside? Yes, absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm just going off of supporting resistance right here. It doesn't really matter which way that it breaks from my trading. My bias goes with that essentially. And if we were to break back above this region right here, especially 95.50, I would look for another test back up to the top side of the range at 9,900 to 10,000-ish region. But then we're kind of dealing with the same thing up here that we're dealing with down here. It's like, yes, it's very close to resolution there, but has it officially had it yet? No, in fact, it hasn't, and that's been keeping us safe ever since we got into this fucking muddy territory about 2 months ago in early May. So the picture that I'm trying to paint right now is one of patience. As yes, it looks very mature. Yes, it's very close to resolution, but I don't think that it's just going to have it right now. It's not going to make it easy for you and give it to you. Now, here's the thing: if Bitcoin does break to the downside on the higher term time frames, how do we denote that? Well, there's a few ways of doing this. You could probably use a 4-hour at this point now, just because things are so. Things are so tested in this region. I would look for a 4-hour delta closure below that blue 377 exponential average, which is actually correlated with our higher lows for right now. As that does seem to be getting respected quite a bit. If we do get an open and closure below that level, which is almost 9,100 now, although it's not necessarily there. It's like maybe $20 below there at 90.80 today. If we did get a closure below there, that'd probably be good enough to test the lower bounds. The better and more conservative way of doing it, in the way that I'm going to be doing it, although I think that way that I just kind of suggested is probably going to work anyways, is using still the 14th of June's low. If we take out that area, or maybe even Thursday's low, the 24th, at about a little bit below 9,000, about 89.80-ish region, depending upon your exchange. Once again, I would look for the downside measure move off of this formation to very likely get hit, which is actually more so around like 7,500, which, funnily enough, as you can see right here, lines up perfectly with the 0.5, and also this lovely breakout and breakdown from this liquid zone coming in early March from this massive meltdown, and then this massive melt up right here. So a very good historical area. That would be the measure move on this one, and there very likely would be bounces along the way. I'd look for a bounce. I'd look for another small time frame bounce around probably 8,900 actually again. But realistically, the next sort of like short term and maybe even medium term bounce, I'd look for somewhere right around here at about 85.50-ish region. Sounds like a bomb's going off over there, and I don't know if you guys can hear that. And while I do think that it would bounce here, I also do think that it would get sold into, and very likely would head down to the 382. Again, another very historically relevant area, as we've seen a lot of big bad price action based around it. This breakout right here, this breakdown right here, same thing right here in March, same thing right here to the upside more recently, and I believe April, and that would also be the 382. I do believe that we'd have another short-term and medium-term time frame bounce there as well. And you always want to see these things in real time, but realistically, as long as it fails to get back above 9,000, especially, it's just another failed bounce, and I'd really be looking for the mid 7,000s to get tapped into. That's when I really start to get interested into in a reversal from that region. Although personally speaking, I actually don't think that this area would reverse it if Bitcoin does break down here. I actually do think that we'd head down to the 618 at 6,900. A lot of people are very proudly posting about how they're going to buy in the 7,000s. Of course, we're making a lot of assumptions here, first and foremost. So I'm not even looking for a trade like this to even happen as long as we're above this area right here, the pivot point. But if it did happen, the reason why I don't think that it'd just bottom out at 7,500 is because it'd kind of be like letting Bitcoin off a little bit too easy. Looking at historical volatility percentile, the reality is that this next move is likely going to be absolutely fucking volcanic in its eruption. We've just never seen anything like this before as far as historical volatility percentile goes for this long. When you get this contracted, it can really only mean one thing, being a mean reverted indicator. It's going to explode. And we don't really have anything like in the history of Bitcoin that even correlates with how aggressive we are right now. To put this in perspective, this has been more than 2 weeks of very, very low single digit and sometimes even zero reads on historical volatility percentile ever since 11th of June. So that's literally more than 2 weeks now. A little bit over 2 weeks, and we can find comparable areas kind of, but not over 2 weeks. We have this one right here. This is probably the closest in September 2019. That precipitated this whole move right here. That's 40% down if you recall. We also have this one right here, but again, not even nearly as aggressive as what we're seeing right now. That produced this whole reversal from 4,000 to, 14,000 actually. We have this area right here, late 2018, before one of these, 50% down. you know what I'm talking about. We have actually one right here on this bull trap in May 2018 as well. This one precipitated a nice 41% move to the downside as well. And is this one right here? This one kind of, not really though, but this one did come to the downside first. 40% move right there, but overall it's a macro uptrend, so that did get picked up over time. Before that, we actually this continuation phase from about $420, great number by the way, all the way to 20,000 essentially. So a read like this is speaking to the macro really, higher time frame at the very least, but quite literally the macro is very likely implied by the next breakage here. Now, the macro area is a little bit different than the high-term time frame area, as I've been relating it. Now, understand that these things are not set in stone. People are going to have different ways of kind of defining these. I look at as the macro as like something that's just completely different on no less than a weekly and maybe even coming up in the next few years, the monthly scale. But as you can see right here, the macro area to the upside is 11,500, the same area that Bitcoin's been getting rejected from ever since January 2018. Almost 3 years running now. To the downside, it's more so around upper 6,000 region. That's when we really start to destroy this and confirm this is just continuation really of a downtrend on the macro. But there's another point that I wanted to make here before we move on. So we were just looking at historical volatility percentile, suggesting that it's going to be a massive move, and that's why I don't think that things would just stop at 7,500, because realistically, from where we are right now down to 7,500 would be about a 29% move, which is big, absolutely yes. But when we measured out the last few ones from a similar read, we're looking at 30% minimum. 35% minimum, realistically like 40 to 50 is kind of where the average is. And this is an outlier as far as that goes in the history of Bitcoin. And those percentages seem like they would be kind of near each other, right? But to put this in perspective, 35% would put us down around 6,900. That's actually where I do think that we could Bitcoin could find its footing. But below 6,900, that actually does speak to the macro continuation of these lower highs and lower lows for the past 3 years, which, if we were to shave off 40% off this price action, which is very relevant to those signals, that puts us below 6,000 actually. 50% puts us at the last prior lows below 5,000 actually. On a daily closing basis. So keep that in mind, because they are deceptive in the way that they're kind of situated right now. Now let's go back to the weekly, and keep in mind that CMEs have closed the week, so CMEs are set in stone, something like this. It did confirm technically below the 10 simple on that last one, although I wouldn't say that that's the most powerful break I've ever seen in my life. But what is very interesting to me right here is the momentum oscillators read, as we are going to see weekly Stokes very likely cross to the downside, because CMEs did close at 92.20 and they do have a small premium of price action. We're pretty much seeing where spot would be in relationship to CMEs for that closure on Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern time. And we can also look at the reverse Stochastic indicator cross to get an idea of what would it take in order to cross this back up to the upside. Well, basically 9,500, which is eerily close to the area that I'm suggesting at 9,550 as kind of being like, as long as we're below this area, there's really no medium term and above bullish case to be made. Short term, yes, you can have a $200 move here and there, completely fine. Doesn't really change anything though as far as those upper time frames go, even up to the medium ones. And so my point is that we're very likely to see this cross down. Not confirmed, set in stone just yet. Obviously need to wait until tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern time to confirm that. But because CMEs have already done it, we are going to see CMEs follow through on that. And just to put this in perspective, once again, anytime that we've seen even this read coming from this area crossing down, well, that was, let me take this off right here. That was this high right here, actually, was the last time at 14,000 before I moved down realistically very quickly, 40%, and in totality about 53.5%. The time before that we saw was actually $20,000 high in 2018, or sorry, 2017, 70% down almost immediately. But then we have this whole phase right here where Bitcoin was in a macro uptrend, right? And we have several reads of where we do get those similar crosses down from that same critical zone above the bullish territory. And this, again, this is during a bullish macro trend. And this still produced 36.69% down right there. 34.5% down right there, 35% down right there, 40% or 39.25% down, 40% down right there, and then the $20,000 high. So if we do break to the downside, I don't think that we're going to stop in the low 8,000s. I do think, like I said, there's going to be bounces along the way, but in its totality, I do think low 7,000 is very likely. Upper 6,000 is very likely as well. And then we'll come back and reassess after those areas have been hit, assuming that the breakdown has been confirmed. Like I said, it just like to the upside. I'm going to be talking about the downside breakdowns, targets and whatnot a lot more when we're close to a resolution there than we are to the upside. Well, if Bitcoin does find its footing here, puts in another rally, maybe even takes out 7,500 once again, on like a 4-hour closure and initiates run back up here, I'll do the same thing for the upside. But for right now, it's a lot closer to breaking the downside. I do think that we're going to play out a little bit of a range here. The very, 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 very short-term micro range is basically between where Bitcoin is right now at like 9,100 and in 9,250-ish region, or if you want to be super conservative, 9,300, which I think, is what I'd be using on a weekend, although I just don't really even trade on the weekends to begin with. Above there, I would look for extension back up to this territory right here. No particular target, but just with particular interest somewhere right around 9,450 to 9,500-ish region. Above there, I would look for extension back up to this area right here, and then this would start to look, a lot more postured for an upside break. But until we get a clear and confirmed close above or below this area right here or this area right here, I'm not looking for these massive moves to happen, even though it's certainly very much in the cards. And all of the things that we just spoke about, suggesting that a big move is coming, does not necessarily imply direction, except for the momentum oscillators that we just looked at, and the Joule as well. And so to the upside, it would be equally as volcanic, if you want to call it that, implying a move to 11,100, and that would actually imply a higher high on a weekly schedule as well. And if that happens, very likely we'd see Bitcoin back around 11,500, and that would be about the 5th time or 6th time it's tested it in the last 3 years. And well, that would be a good statistical setup for a breakout, to be fair. So what I want to do now is I want to go down to the lower term time frames. We didn't really plot these guys out just yet. Yes, there is a death cross present on the 4-hour. It's just I'd be looking for some like this on its first pass. Some a little bit more snaky. Even though it does look good, it's just over a weekend. I wouldn't really be looking for this one to take over. Let's look at momentum oscillators coming from this perspective as well. 4-hour Stokes are very much erect right there, and they will remain erect, painfully erect even, as long as we essentially maintain these lows right here at 9,100 on a closing basis, which it looks like it wants to right now. So we're going to naturally see it float upwards and onwards here. We do not have any bullish divergence to be aware of on this time frame. What about a 3-hour? Same thing. 3-hour Stokes still up after snaking around, will remain to the upside as long as we hold this low right here, which is also the 10 simple at 9,150. Good. 2-hour, same shit, 9,130, coming from the same area. I like these reads to go test some upside over the weekend, actually. And same thing for the hourly. They're all coming from pretty much the same area. I'd be looking for a reapproach of like 9,250, 9,300-ish region. Does Bitcoin take it out or not? I don't have an opinion on that. We'll look at probabilities later. Hourly Joule did give a buy signal right here, so fair enough. It's probably good enough for another, $200 move or something. But do we clear the critical areas? That's a real question. And if 9,300 does get closed above, especially on like an hourly or 2-hour, I would look for extension, another couple $100, but we'll see where things are at that point. Historical volatility percentile on the hourly is quite low as well. So we probably are going to be looking for a short-term move here, a couple $100 moves, probably today. But do we break the range or not? Don't know. Don't care. I'd really be waiting for the end of the weekend, to be quite honest with you. But we'll look at probabilities right here. And for these lower term timeframes, we could use that last prior low at 9100 essentially, and then we'll use 9300 to the upside for the very short term time frames, and we'll look at the high term time frames as well. But I imagine that it's probably not going to be all that titillating right now, because we're probably not going to be looking at a breakout right now. Just make sure that everything's working over there. It is, and still got time, so that's good. Okay, to the upside we'll do 93 on a 4-hour closure. To the downside we'll do let's do 90.50. Just be a little, I just err on the side of conservativeness here. Okay, cool. So let's see. This is the next 4-hour closure, by the way, and the next 4-hour closure is showing almost 13% to the upside versus 19.5% to the downside, which is interesting. Although I mean, both of these, obviously the downside is more probable here. I would disagree with. I disagree with math. It's like, no, the math is what it is. But fair enough. For what it's worth, that that's what it's showing. Let's look at a 12-hour. Should be very high for both sides. Yeah, 31.86% to the upside, 35.5% to the downside. On a daily closure, 35.25 to the upside versus 41.25 to the downside. But remember, this is the very, 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 very short-term stuff to the upside. To the downside, 90.50 is relevant for the daily. However, because it is a weekend, I would not be using that price point. I'd really like to use the wick that we saw on 14th of June at 8,900. Yes, it's another $150 below there. That's fine for myself. Of course, it's not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor, so understand that it's personal preference here, as I would err on the side of caution, especially during the weekend. But as you can see right here, if I use 9,500, which does correlate with the weekly momentum oscillators, that actually does have a decent amount of probability. I mean, it's almost 20%, which is high. 8,900, obviously more at 27.83%, and that would be pretty damning. If we do break below there, I would look for a bounce below at 85.50ish region. But again, it looks to me like this weekend's going to be kind of more the same of what we saw this past week. Bounce off of the 9100ish region. How high did we get on it? The main point is that as long as the bounce fails to get back above, especially 9,500, it's just another lower high, and this is really starting to look like it's tipping over as far as the long term goes. We can also look at the 2-day and 3-day. We didn't check out these guys just yet, but looking at the 2-day, momentum also to stay to the downside as long as we're below 9,400. This one is a little bit more interesting to me though, just because the 2-day is the 2-day is strange here. It would appear that we've already kind of broken this structure if you're looking at the 2-day, right? With that red dildo right there. We'd have seen continuation below it, of course, as well, but we're not really seeing the volume signature that you'd be looking for on something like this. The volume signature suggests that we are looking for resolution, like on this, anytime really here. I mean, we're very, very full, we're very, very mature, but we're not really seeing the price action come in at the same levels as well. More importantly, with this, look at where the 200 simple is, and look at where look at where that rising trend line is. Sorry, I'm talking about. Whoops, let me get rid of this one right here. I guess actually it's kind of further away from it right now. That's a trend line based off of a daily closure. So fair enough. I guess the point that I was trying to make, but it's looking like that's not going to be true. So I need to kind of pull that back. But the 2-day white 200 simple moving average is a pretty damn good giver of phase, if you want to call it that. No, that's not the right way that I want to relay this idea. Hold on, let me get rid of all this shit. Okay, I think it'll be a lot easier when we look at just a clean example like this. Okay, so the 2-day 200 simple is starting to flatten out as far as its slope goes, and more importantly, we can see that historically speaking, its slope does speak very well to the macro trend. Now, to the downside, it's a little bit of a of a lagging indicator when it gets that slope change, but also price action relationship to the 200 simple, whether it's above or below, is also a damn good indication of kind of like a multifaceted way of getting the long-term momentum on this one. As you can see over here, Bitcoin price action above, positive slope, keeps you along the whole way through. Not that you'd maybe even want to be long through this area right here, but this is still a move from $6 to like $1,100. Then flips around right here, tells you to stay along all the way from 320 to 20,000. flips right around here, on the dump in 2018, and then more importantly to the upside, back around here on the run to 14,000. Stayed with the positive slope the whole way through. However, now starting to flatten out a little bit. So what it could also suggest to us is that as long as Bitcoin's above it, which, by the way, you can see that it's really starting to line up quite well with that last spike low that we saw on 14th of June. As long as Bitcoin's above it, it is still, you can still kind of make an excuse for it, I suppose. However, over time, with Bitcoin kind of going more and more sideways here, it will naturally start to fall on over. It's already starting to get a neutral slope, and it won't be long before it gets a negative slope, probably maybe later this next week. So keep an eye out for that as well. As far as the daily goes, we're seeing daily Stokes cross to the down, or sorry, we already spoke about this, but what's the price point that's needed to maintain that 94.25? So both of those areas kind of getting that same little lower high right there. That also means that, if Bitcoin were to get back above, we very likely do put another rally in for 300, 400 bucks and test the upside once again. But for right now, pressure is down. Let's go over to the 3-day. The 3-day is also something that makes me kind of reconsider inherent bearishness in this area as well. I have a difficult time being bearish as long as we're above the 21 exponential moving average on the 3-day. It's not a sure thing or anything like that, but I'll let you decide for yourself here. Hold on, as you should. The 3 days relationship to the 21 is pretty damn good, and the slope of it is actually even better, in fact. And the slope of this one is finally flattening out. It was actually positive this whole way through. It's actually starting to flatten out right now. You can see the same sort of thing going on in last year in summer, as it started to flatten out at the top of this rally right here before the next big down, and that stays the whole way down. So it did do a damn good job of that. But you see a lot of fake outs above it as well. Especially considering that the last fucking 3 years of Bitcoin price action has been in a macro downtrend. However, going back and back testing it through this area right here, it operates very, very well for that facet, and it never gets a negative slope unless a Bitcoin actually is going to go into some and actually reverse a trend from that time frames perspective, as you can see right here. Although it does revert it to the upside very, very quickly after that, so it's not a foolproof way of doing things. But with the way that Bitcoin's acting right here, if we were to take out this low right here, confirm an actual downtrend with multiple lower highs plus a lower low, and be below that on price action, plus having a negative slope on that as well, likely, very, 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 very likely, historically speaking, to lead to that fall through to the downside. So I would like, I do like that as a nice natural pivot as well. It's coming in at 91.50, and it closes tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern time. So all these things are kind of coming into focus right now. Now, I do want to present a little bit on the side of the BULAs here as well, just because the monthly is the highest time frame, and really relevant to Bitcoin's price action right now. Of course, there's high time frames than that, but they just we don't have enough data for it to really make sense. But looking at the monthly right here, does this look problematic as it is? Actually, no, it doesn't. As it is, we are going to see monthly Stokes maintain their posturing to the upside if, and this is where things get a little bit more Jedi-like, if Bitcoin can close this monthly above 89.50. If Bitcoin closes below 89.50, which, by the way, is pretty much where that downside continuation point is on a closure, actually below there, funnily enough. But even just on a wick, it's about $50 away from that 8,900 low, and I could even use that last 89.81 as probably a good enough one anyways, to get that downside continuation. That would force these babies back down, and to have a snake around in this area right here, once you've kind of rejected going into the bearish control zone and then come back down hard into it, you're usually going to spend a lot of time in there after something like that. That's a fake out read, and that's very, 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 very bearish. Looking at monthly Stokes, same thing here as well. Needs to maintain above 9,000 on a monthly closure, otherwise it will lose the exponential, but not as tested on this one, to be fair. And monthly Joule is still actually telling you to hodl your longs here. However, if we do come down hard enough, and unfortunately we don't have a forecast tool for this, but if it does come down hard enough to end this month of June, we will come back down below this pink as well right there. Now, the more aggressive traders will short off that. I would not, but or at least I wouldn't make a habit of it. But it would be indicative of long-term change in momentum to the downside as well. And then a natural target would be wherever the 21 is, and that's a little bit below 7,800. I'd also like to check out the accumulation distribution indicator, but its slope's going to be the same. So until we actually get the new month, we won't know. But for right now, it's that's also another point in the Bulah's court. Let's go check out other traditional markets just to make sure that we have agreement here. Weekly close on E-mini futures, not all that healthy either. Close below the 200 simple, didn't break the 55, and Bulahs will consider this a retest of the golden cross. I would say coming down like this and printing lower highs on this retest is not indicative of strength. I would look for another bounce up here to start the week. Back around 304, 305 maybe, but any sort of continuation, especially below 2969, great number as well. And we're going to see this thing very, 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 very likely come down to the low 280s. I think that also SPY has a gap somewhere down around there as well, maybe like 280-ish region. Yeah, it does. 286 actually. So 286 would be a natural target if that does happen. And this is looking like it's coming down quite aggressively here as well. I mean, the only way that it really switches around if it does pull itself in and do a higher low right here, possible. Definitely seen weirder things happen, but that's going to be pretty damn obvious if it does start to happen. So for right now, I'd have to say that reversal here, again, does not really bode well for Bitcoin. We can look at gold really quick as well. Where's my golds? My golds! Or do we want to look at Eurodollar? Eurodollar, I think, confirmed another rejection as well. Yeah, I really don't like this. I actually do think that's putting another macro lower high. Does it pop back up and test the 200 simple again? Yeah, it definitely can. Definitely can. Another, another move there would be fine. But a lot of wicks in that region. A lot of distribution going on, and I really have to balance that out with looking at Dixie's chart. For the people who happen to give a fuck about Forex, yes, we were looking for a bounce off this region. I think that this does continue back up and probably test around 98.60. So what does that mean for Eurodollar? Probably coming down. But where's gold? There it is, 1771. Hey, that's an important date, I think. 17, very good close on the weekly. Yes. Okay. So we were looking for continuation on this one up to 1800. I'm still looking for that. We haven't really hit the targets there, but we do have a very, 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 very healthy closure there, taken up all the way to 1779. So I think that we're still just seeing this one unfold. Other thing I'd wait for is the monthly closure, but the monthly is potentially going to close any monthly close above 1750, and I'd look for extension above 1800 coming into July. Extremely likely if that does happen. Again, still one of the best charts in all of the lands, actually. Do we want to look at Mr. Buteau really quick? Sure, why not? I'll just have that conversation with myself. Do you want to look at Tudor's diary? Maybe not, though. Looks to me a little bit aimless here. Yes, there is a lower high in place. Do we have a lower low in place just yet? Not really, no. But if we do come down to 222, which looks quite likely, then yes. Daily Jewel is under pressure. Weekly is looking like a rejection of the 200. Let's go to a chart with more history here, though. Yeah. That's actually just a 200. The 200 exponential moving average is way below here. And almost about to get a golden cross, by the way. Kind of like a do or die situation, but... I see a lot of posts about how Ethereum is under accumulation because, well, a dead heartbeat chart apparently. I think people are used to like 2017 and they think that something like this is normal to just get a pump up because like they saw that shit go. I'll bring you an example. Where's Stellar? Because Stellar did this like perfectly in 2017, and I think that people just like keep on going off this, thinking that this is a good thing. This is like the worst thing that can happen like ever. And it's so fucking funny that like this is apparently the end all be all formation that people look for in cryptocurrency. Yeah, okay, it is Stellar. All right, so this was 2017. I think that a lot of people are used to something like this, right? Where they see all of this action right here. Let me put on log. And they're like, oh yeah, this is accumulation. It's flattened out. Boom, big move up. Yes, okay, that looks amazing, right? And then it comes down again. No, accumulation, bro, accumulation. And then boom, massive move up again. Oh, awesome, that's great. And then it just comes down. And what they think is that this over here is building a case in the same way that you saw something like this over here, the dead heartbeat. No, actually not true. And what's going on here is you're seeing distribution over a long period of time. This is not accumulation in any way, shape, or form. This is a very, 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 very unhealthy chart long term, as are most cryptocurrencies not named Bitcoin, which you could even argue now for Bitcoin, especially if it puts in another macro lower high here. That's not going to going to be true at all. I mean, look at Litecoin. You know, what are you essentially constructing as far as macro? And here's the reason why these people don't get this is because, you know, they see this massive move right here, which looks very impressive, of course. And a lot of people got rich as fuck on paper, and also real. You know, the smarter people absolutely did as well. But the difference between what's going on, you know, right here, between what's going on right here is that you're just not incorporating the whole picture. What's going on is you're in a macro downtrend now, and you're going to stay in a macro downtrend for maybe even eternity. Who knows? I mean, you know, there are going to be some major winners over time. We can't even really make a trend line here, but you can see for your very eyes that it is just, you know, lower highs and lower lows. There's nothing crazy about that. What you see over here is something different. You actually see higher lows at some point. Yeah, it gets printed right here, and then boom, takes out the last prior high. There's nothing like that going on right here. And going forwards, if this thing ever even did get a rally back up to 18 cents, I mean, good luck getting past there. That was a different era, different bubble. This is just a different fucking bubble over here. So for whatever reason, people like the dead heartbeat chart, thinking that that's like a bullish thing. It's under accumulation. No, I mean, what you're seeing is you're not seeing accumulation. You're seeing continuation of trend. Trend's been down. There's a complete change of behavior after something like this, after a blow off top, and a lot of the time, you know, you'll see similar charts in if you go back and check out like the .com bubble, and most of those things, it's not that they went to zero, but they just became irrelevant and pretty much did nothing for like the next, I mean, until now, you know, 20 years later. You know, of course, there were a few that were massively successful, and that'll be the same thing for crypto as well. There's probably gonna be some massively successful ones, but this one right here, I mean, weekly death cross is coming, baby. It's fucking coming. What is this? Ripple me nipples. If you loved it at $3, you're gonna love it at 15 cents. And maybe even lower than that over time. You know, this one's probably going to go for the full, you know, long term, this probably goes for the full retrace down into the single digits again. Yeah, I mean, you know, we're talking maybe like, you know, 5-10 years out, or maybe sooner than that as well. I don't know. I don't, that's not something that I really do. But, you know, these sorts of charts are just god fucking awful. I'm curious though, what does the Satoshi pairings look like? Like what's a Cardano look like right now versus Bitcoin? Looks actually good. And if I was just trading this, I'd be targeting a move towards above 1,000 Satoshis actually. But I don't have you know, the problem is that just hasn't been the right way to trade these things in the past. You know, again, continuation of downtrend is more likely than anything. And, you know, your last major macro high was right here at 1750. It could rally up all the way to that region and still reject and come down for the more long-term lows. But for right now, is it finding its footing here? Yep. And this does seem to be one of the ones that people do have a higher degree of faith in. So, you know, maybe it could be one of the big winners long-term, perhaps, yes. But I don't see any change of behavior like at all. Volume signature is interesting though, but nothing more than that. Let's go check out. I don't know. Is there any other shitcoin forex pairs that I want to look at? What about Litecoin? Yeah, $43.50. Got the death cross weeks ago, and now just hanging on the lows again. You know, it looks like it's printing a descending triangle after that last failed rally attempt. I even saw like a bunch of posts yesterday about how people were like really fucking excited about this green dildo right here. Like, holy shit, the market's turning around, bro. It's like, what the fuck are you looking at, man? It's a trend. It's a motherfucking trend. I mean, and look at this. All this price action is happening while weekly stokes are coming up the whole fucking way just to the neutral zone. Nothing's changed at all. I mean, the daily can and probably even maybe will rally up to $46. Still just another lower high. That's the problem with something like this, and building a major case down here. And I'm not saying that these things can't flip back around, but I would say that I'd look for Bitcoin to kind of set the tone. And while Bitcoin probably does get another bounce off this region, it's hard to love as long as it's below 9,500. And I think that's the main point that I want to kind of end this video with. So yeah, you know, I do think that Bitcoin's going to pop back up here, test around 9,250, maybe even 9,300. If Bitcoin does close an hourly or 2-hour dildo above 9,300, I would look for extension probably to 9,450, 9,500-ish region. I don't really have a strong opinion on that. If it were to get up there, my main opinion is that 95 9,500 is like the next big area. Need to see preferably a weekly, but daily closure and nothing else above there before getting excited about another potential test to the top side resistance of this overall structure at 9,900 to 10,000. If that were to happen, hey, can still target those upside moves to 11,000 and beyond potentially. But for right now, anything below 7,500 is just that, another lower high, and any sort of a move back below, especially 14th of June, spike low at 8,900 or a closure below about 9,000, especially on a 12-hour daily, even 90.50 is not going to look all that good, and likely does initiate the overall dooms downside with bounces along the way at 8,500, 8,150, 7,500, and then we'll talk about that if and when we do get there. Until then, it's still just a game of waiting for resolution here. So I salute all the patient traders right now and all of the impatient ones as well, because we all deal with the human emotions. So with that said, I want to wish you well once again. Take care, and until next time.